my topic for today is living into my purpose in the new lunar year. And I think the topic of living into your purpose, is that something that resonates with you? Do you feel like you are living into your purpose when I say those words? I hope you do. For me personally, this is something that's really on the top of my mind, because I'm building my company, Inner Wellness Coaching, where I really have the mission. I feel I have the mission to connect people with their purpose in the workplace, because I think it's a conversation more and more people are having with themselves. Like, how can I every day live into my purpose? How can I feel like there's meaning in what I do every day, when I'm at work, when I'm at home? So that's like, when we look at the workplace, we see how things are different now compared to years back, even 2 years ago, before the pandemic, or 3 years ago. Things are different. People are looking more for meaning, and people will not stay for as long in one job, because of this idea that you want meaning. You want to have energy when you wake up in the morning. You want to live into your strengths when you're at work, whatever you're doing. So it's not so much the mentality anymore to check in and check out, as maybe the previous generation or the generation before that had with work. People really are looking for this idea of, I want to utilize the gifts that I have, and I want to develop those gifts. But unfortunately, there's a statistic. There's this statistical bureau called Gallup, and every year they do a report of the state of the global workforce. And so in 2022, they reported that only 33% of the global workforce feel engaged at work. Of the whole global workforce, is a huge, huge data that they have gathered all over the world. And in Europe, only 14% of people feel engaged at work. It's actually the region in the whole world where people are the least engaged at work. So what does this mean? It means that people are not feeling like they're utilizing their gifts. They're not feeling a sense of meaning as they go to work. And I think that that's a huge loss, right? It's a huge loss of people's creativity, of productivity, of just well-being, of joy. So imagine what we could do if each and every one of us really felt like we tapped into this purpose. So that's what I want to talk about today, right? And yeah, if we look at the English dictionary, purpose is pretty vague, or like not vague, but it's very, it's not a very strong meaning, I feel like, of purpose, but it says why you do something or why something exists. But I think now, in the time we're living in, if you think about it, we have so many resources available to us. We're talking right now over the internet, right? Whenever we have a question, we can Google that question and we can get an answer. We can connect with people all around the world because of the internet, and there's so many other things as well. When we look at history, I had this thought, when we look at history, people did not have, obviously, the resources we have, but even just the agency of being able to do what they want to do. Like, when they have this desire to do something because it lights them up, because they feel creative thinking about that thing. Throughout history, people have not had that. When we think about living in a monarchy with a ruthless king, then if you broke the laws, then maybe you would get your head chopped off, right? Or something like that. Or in the feudal society, if you were born into a poor family, then your what you could do in life, your outlook of life was very limited to that class you were born into. You couldn't just have an idea and be able to manifest that into the external world. And the same goes, for maybe the upper class, like you had to, if you think about the feudal society again, you have to be a certain type of way, you have to be within the box and the behaviors associated to that class. So you couldn't utilize your own unique creativity and your own unique ideas to do something and manifest that into the world. And so for that reason, I think the time we are living in now is very, very special, because we have that agency, that ability to be free with our actions, to create what we want to create into the world without, being oppressed, without being killed. Of course, it's not like that for everyone in the world, right? If you are a woman in Afghanistan, you don't have that same agency over yourself. Or if you're living in another dictatorship, or if you're under Sharia law, right? So I think this idea of purpose and tapping into your purpose, and us living here in Sweden, in a Western country where there's freedom, it also ties into our responsibility. So it's actually a responsibility for us to tap into our purpose so that we can make more impact, so that we can reach more people, so that we can love more. And that's what it comes down to when we look at what your parents teach us about purpose, and what the divine principle teaches us about purpose. It comes down to love. And so I want to read some words from True Father. First of all, here, so each of you has a mind, but you can't tell me how it looks or even where it is located in space. Your mind would have the same goal as the other parts of you to experience things of value. We can observe other people doing things, and we may not see any underlying principle that guides their actions. However, if we really examine it, we can find the center and guiding purpose of a person's life. A person will base his entire life, his actions, and everything on the central value in his life. So purpose comes down to value, and we can see what is most meaningful to people based on the actions that they're taking, based on how they are presenting themselves, what they're doing out in the world, how they are making impact and serving people. And yeah, okay, so the divine principle gives us this clear structure of purpose. And actually, it's about 3 purposes. And it talks about the 3 great blessings, right? And this is purpose. But I think when we talk about purpose, like the general public, when we talk about purpose, it's more relating to the 3rd blessing of what we're manifesting out into the world, what we're creating. But actually, the first blessing is also one of our purposes, to perfect ourselves, to be in oneness with God, to mature our character. That is our purpose too. And that purpose comes about also from being, from having been created, from being alive, we'll get into that more. And then the second blessing of building a life with our spouse and, creating a family, that is also our purpose. To, me as a woman, getting to know my husband as a man with different qualities, and respecting that, and the synergy that we can have together, and the family that we can create, that is also a purpose. That is also our purpose. And then finally, the 3rd blessing of what we're creating together and individually out into the world, that is also our purpose. So True Father continues here. This is from a different text. Within the framework of this understanding, divine principle finds a clear expression of purposes in the following well-known passage from Scripture. Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion. God is bestowing 3 blessings upon Adam and Eve: be fruitful or unite with him, multiply or unite with each other, have dominion or unite with creation. What precisely would it mean to be fruitful, which is the first blessing? A tree becomes fruitful when it becomes mature or when it blossoms and bears fruit. Similarly, God's first blessing to mankind is the blessing of individual perfection or maturity, a state in which the individual become one with God in heart. Ultimately, each of us is meant to establish a vital rapport between himself and God, resulting in perpetual, ever-expanding joy. When thou comest unto my heart, all that is within me dost joy, writes Thomas A. Kempis of his relationship with God. Such was God's hope. We were to be fruitful and joyful by uniting with him. The promise of maturity may be described from another point of view also. That is, divine principle would assert that the goal of individual life is achieved by getting mind and body in tune with each other, centered on God. This is what it comes down to. This is what purpose is, okay? The purpose of our life, both coming and going, is simply love. We begin as embryos, we develop, and then we experience life. In our lives, we're destined to return to that point of unity and love through which another embryo is formed. Every person is born alone and grows up and forms a couple, but then each person dies alone. Everyone is born from two parents. No one is his own origin. Centering upon the parents' love, the children come into existence. The cells of the embryo multiplies hundreds of billions of times to form a new baby. What is the value of that child? His value comes from the fact that he is a participant in and a part of his parents' love. Our lives depend entirely upon the love of our parents. If our parents did something to exclude us from their love, we would never have existed. Since the child is a part of the love between the father and mother, he inherits all his vital elements from them. When the parents look at their children, they can see everything of value within themselves because those children are the embodiments of themselves. Also, the love from the past, present, and future are contained within those children. So that's what it comes down to. Our purpose is love, and the love grows, right? It starts from within ourselves. We're born from love. We can connect with love. We are connected to love with God, and it's the love in our families, and it's the love that we create and expand out into the world. So that's what it comes down to, and that's what we need to connect to as blessed families and as humans. And I think more and more people are starting to realize the concept or the idea of purpose, because we're laying on the foundation of God's providence, right? We're all benefiting from God's providence and from the sacrifices and conditions of our true parents and the sacrifice and conditions of members. So people are starting to be more aware of, how can I live into my purpose? They don't quite, I don't think, have the understanding that purpose is connected to love, and that in the three elements of purpose, that even focusing on our connection with God and also our families, that is also living into our purpose. So that's maybe something that we can show. But I think this is a really important conversation to have with ourselves and with others as we move into this new year. Picture of a happy family. All right, and then True Mother, as we started this new year, she began her speech saying, "The new year of the Black Rabbit has dawned, in which your most earnest wishes will become tangible beacons of hope and illuminate all of humankind." So I really hope, and I think that we can do that by connecting with this idea of our purpose. So how can I connect to my purposes? And I think it comes down to a very simple tool, you could say, that's also very profound, that we talked about last Sunday. Ingmarie talked about this. So does anyone have a guess? I don't think I can hear you in Stockholm over there, but anyone in Zoom, maybe if you have the answer, you can type it. What is the tool that can connect you with your purposes? A very simple thing you can do or think about, or what do you think? Yeah, Felix looks like he knows. Pray. Yeah, sort of. But I was thinking about gratitude. When we connect to gratitude, when we connect to the fact that, I'm alive, I'm in this body, I was born, that connects us to the first blessing, the purpose, the first purpose, right? The first blessing. When we are grateful for our family and the little moments that we have with our children, with our spouse, it's almost like it stops time. It pauses time a little bit. And we're able to capture that moment and ingrain it into our minds and in our brains and our hearts. So that helps us connect to that purpose. And then gratitude, when we see things, everything from the lens of gratitude, then we're able to give more love. We're able to be more intentional with the words that we use. We're able to do actions with more love. So gratitude is key for us to connect to our purposes. And as we're moving into this new year, I want to be more grateful. And I hope you do too. So another idea to connect to, especially the third blessing of our purpose, I think it's essential to quiet our environment. And when I say that, I mean, turn off the news, turn off social media, and connect with yourself and with God. And learn to listen to what's happening. Like, what do you need? And what are your strengths? And what are your gifts to give to the world? And what are the desires that are connected to your original nature that you need to materialize into the world? Get inspired by your parents' words, or other things, meeting interesting people, being out in nature, being in beautiful environments, listening to great music, whatever it takes to get you inspired, which is a state of being. It's where you feel like anything is possible. It's where, your creativity gets going and you feel energized. So let's get inspired, get ourselves inspired. And also let's take action. Let's take more action on our God-given desires, instead of second guessing them, because I think we have a tendency to want to do something, maybe something really simple, maybe like, oh, it would be great to, I've baked these cookies for my family, and I would like to give some cookies to my neighbor who I know is lonely, and to do that, instead of being like, oh no, they probably are doing something else, or I don't want to bother them or something. To learn to take action on those moments of inspiration, of the desires that come up, no matter how small, the desires that are connected to our God-given nature, right? Because I think as we learn to take that action can get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we can make more impact and serve more people. So I believe that's the end. Yeah, that's the end of my sermon, I guess you can say, for today. So thank you very much.